the stolen homelands of the Haamanga tribal band. The tribal territory of the Gabrielino Tonga is referred to as Twangar, which includes the areas currently known as the Los Angeles County, Riverside County, West San Bernardino County, parts of Orange County, as well as the 4 Southern Channel Islands. Entities such as the U.S. government and non-native settlers have subjected the Gabrielino Tonga peoples to historic and continuing injustices, including genocide, forced displacement, and cultural and linguistic erasure. Alton Library commits to learning, educating, and informing its staff and residents present-day about the rich histories, vibrant communities, and culture of Gabrielino Tonga people, present and past, through our collection, development, resources, and program offerings. So with that, I'd like to, let me see what we can do here. I don't have the roll. I'd like to call the roll call, please. Trustee Andrews?
Here.
Trustee Capel?
In the nick of time.
I'm good for you. Trustee Clark?
Here.
Trustee Walker?
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. Okay, so now we have before item 2, consideration of urgent items to be added to closed session. But prior to that, I do need to propose an amendment to the closed session agenda that you have before you. As you may know, the district received a claim from a former employee alleging personnel violations. So as such, under the pursuant to Government Codes Section 54956.9D2, I'd like to have I'm going to introduce a motion, make a finding that there is a need for immediate action, 1. 2, make a finding that this needs to come before the district's attention after posting of the agenda. So 1, we're deeming this an urgent matter. 2, that we're going to have this posted as a result of this coming after the agenda was posted. So the motion before you is, again, those 2. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Great. Any further discussions on the amendment to the closed session? No. Seeing none, we'll take the matter to a vote. That is both the amended amendment that was just read in and approved, the motion, as well as what's been posted on the agenda. Trustee Andrews?
Aye.
Trustee Capel?
Aye.
Trustee Clark?
Aye.
Trustee Wilkerson?
Aye.
And that is a aye vote for me. So now closed session public comment. Are there any public comment cards for closed session?
There.
Okay, seeing none, then I believe then we can adjourn to closed session at this point. So we'll go ahead and, if we could, I believe, turn the external cameras off, but for Trustee Clark, so no one else can see. Shut that off.
We'll move up to my office. Okay.
You want us to go to a different office? Is that okay?
There's a difference.
Oh, I know. That may be.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll go up to my
Okay. All right. So we're going to go to closed session, and we'll resume this meeting shortly. Thank you.
Are we good today? Okay.
We're good to go?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, great. Okay, now we are back in session from closed session where we had no reportable items from that session. So now we will go to open session and where we will, we've already called the roll. So we'll go then to, do we have any other, do we have any amendments to the regular agenda that's been posted? All right, seeing none, may I get a motion to approve the agenda, please?
I move we approve the agenda.
Thank you. May I get a second?
I'll second.
Great, thank you very much. We'll take the matter to a vote. Trustee Andrews?
Aye.
Trustee Capell?
Aye.
Trustee Clark?
Aye.
Trustee Wilkerson?
Aye.
And I will make the agenda not approved. Okay, now, any public comments on non-agenda items, Kelly?
None at this time.
Great, thank you very much. All right. So now we will go to the consent calendar. The Board of Trustees approves and recommended actions. The approval of the minutes from the August 22nd meeting. Any edits or changes to the minutes as posted? No? Okay. Seeing none, may I get a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Thank you, Katie. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. We'll take the matter to a vote. Trustee Andrews?
Aye.
Trustee Capell?
Aye.
Trustee Clark?
Aye.
Trustee Wilkerson?
Aye.
And I vote for me. Thank you very much. All right, we have no items that were removed from the consent calendar, so now we will go to the department updates and special presentations, which starts on page 11 of your packet. Any questions or comments for the staff on the report?
I don't have any tonight.
Just a comment. I believe this was a section that featured the poet get together, the poet laureate presentation. And I just want to say I went to that and it was terrific. So it was really a fun event and it was a bunch of people. I think that's actually in your report, Nikki, so it might be Jeff on the garage. But that was really a terrific event. I was glad to see it happen.
Thanks for that.
I just wanted to shout out the patron success story. That was really nice to read about. I might have cried a little bit. So it was really touching to see that. And then I really love the displays that are set up or were set up on the Altadena Indigenous history. Yeah, just wanted to comment on that and say thank you. Looks good as per usual.
Katie, comments, questions?
Yeah, same. Once again, my thank you to the staff for a really comprehensive set of reports. And as always, I really appreciate all the images. It was great to put a face to the name for Mr. Porras and his story. I thought that was terrific as well. So thank you so much for including that.
I had a question about that actually. Was that the actual article that was written up in the newspaper? For the patron success, not the patron success story, the gentleman from Guatemala? It looked like a news article, so I just was curious where exactly it was from. But,
The easy English one. Yeah. I was impressed with that also.
Yeah, it was in a local paper that was shared with Diana, and then Diana shared the article with us.
really cool,
Oh, and Diana's in there?
really cool, either way.
Perhaps we get clarification on that question later on. Great. Okay, well, thank you very much for the report, comprehensive as always. Next on the agenda are our traditional reports. This is first up, our support groups. It starts on page 25 of your package. We have the Elton Library Foundation. Bridget, you there?
I am. It just takes me a minute to figure out how to turn the camera on and turn the volume on. As my report said, we elected a new board director, Natalie Orta, and her background is in working with the LA County Small Business Administration. So we're really excited to have someone new. And just interestingly, at Taste of Dina the other night, 2 people came up to various directors asking how they could apply to serve on our board of directors. So that's pretty exciting stuff. I'm really happy about that. At our last meeting, we did officially adopt a vision statement, which is our Altadena libraries fully resourced and our community fully engaged. That's our vision for future. We also received the formal request from the library in the amount of $37,000 for the year 23. And we're going to do our utmost to raise that. We have begun conversations in prep for our planning retreat, which is November 5th. Looking at maybe new ways of existing as a foundation, looking at what is actually sustainable rather than just keep on keeping on as we've done since 2009, but rather we have to look at some new pathways. And I don't know what it'll be. We didn't have time to really thoroughly discuss some of the options. So we're holding a special meeting in October, and the plan is then to review, to give consideration, maybe something wholly new, maybe some combination of what we're considering. But at the forefront of our decision is figuring out what is sustainable, not what would we like to do. If we were doing that, we'd continue just as we are. So that's where that is. Just a very quick update on Taste of Dina. We made more than we've ever made. We made net over $33,000.
Wow.
I'm so excited. It's really pretty amazing. We had over 200 registered guests and about 100 and I'd say 175, 180 attended. And everything went really well. It's the first year I think that we sold every single bottle of wine that was in our wine pool. That's always nice. And we didn't have a lot of bottles left over to pour in glasses at the end of it either. So everything went really, really, really well. And we're very, very pleased. And that's it, folks.
Great. Well, thank you very much for being here. Any questions or comments, colleagues?
This is a great job. It's great to hear that the goals were met and exceeded. It's terrific.
It is nice. We had it literally does take a village to get it done. And all kudos to Chloe, because it never truly, as we think about things that are sustainable, this event is not, unless we reimagine how we can do it. Because really, Chloe had to carry the weight for almost everything. And she did it, and we had a great evening. So thanks.
Anyone else? No? Well, again, congratulations to you and the rest of the members. You did a fantastic job. So congrats. Thank you very much. Okay, next we have a report from the Friends. Tom, you there?
Tom is not present.
Tom is not present. Okay, very good. All right. Well, the report is, his one-page report is on page 26 of your packet. Take a look at it if you have any questions. So with that, then we will go on then to the district director's report, which you can find on page 27 of your report.
All right. Thank you. Good evening, trustees, staff, and members of the community watching on YouTube. I'm sure there's many. As I stated in my director's report, we sadly said goodbye to both Elaine Hamilton and Finn Lee this past month. I did want to take another opportunity to truly thank Elaine for all the work that she did for us in almost just over 2.5 years and all of her dedication to the district. It was definitely a bittersweet day to see her go, so we wish her the best. Finn Lee also left. They were promoted to a librarian position at the Alhambra Library, so right down the street from me. It's a tween librarian position, which anyone that's worked with Finn knows that's where their passion lies, is serving tweens. So we're very excited for them. They were definitely sad to go from our conversation with them on their last day, but wish them the best, and I'll definitely drop in and see how they're doing at times. So we are in the process of recruiting for the Youth and Family Services Manager position. It is posted on Government Jobs, the CLA Career Board. I recently put it on Indeed, which results with lots and lots of applications. So Ashley and I are sorting through those. It is supposed to close this Friday. We're going to assess what the candidate pool looks like at that point and potentially extend it if we feel like we need to build a more robust candidate pool. So that is going on. We're also planning to post a part-time library clerk position as vacancies come up and we're moving towards building renovations. We're going to assess each vacancy to see if it makes sense to try to fill with part-time positions to fill the gap so that down the road when we're having to close main library, we're not looking at having to eliminate staff that would potentially be like full-time positions. Not that we plan to eliminate any positions, but again, we're going to continue to assess the need and hire probably part-time mainly. Okay, let's see. So exciting news I had to say on the record that we found out from the California State Library that we were awarded $7,579,666 from the Building Forward Infrastructure Grant through the state. We did request 9.1, which we thought was shooting for the stars, so we're very, very pleased with the 7.5. The facilities committee has met, and I'm hopefully not stepping on Jason's shoes at all.
On this one, you can step on you want.
Okay. So knowing we have that number now, which puts us over 30 million in the building project fund, we're reestablishing the schedule for the main library, as well as continuing to move the Bob Lucas project forward, which is one of your agenda items tonight. So we're really excited about that news, and I think all starting to feel giddy again about the building projects. So more info to come. And thank you to David and Jonathan and Elaine, who helped us write the grant, as well as Jennifer Pearson from Rackham Partners. She did a lot of work for us on that too. So thanks to everyone who pitched in. Definitely worth it for $7.5 million. So again, we presented the Bob Lucas design documents to town council at their joint census tract meeting, which was actually held in this room on September 17th, looking to get feedback, answer questions. Thank you to Jason, our architect, Mark Schumann, and Jonathan for being here as well. There weren't a lot of questions. The main thing people wanted to know is when we're getting started. So we're also continuing to push the survey that can be found on the next chapter page on the website. So if you're out in public, please spread the word. We've also created the Bob Lucas design document boards at both libraries. We're taking those out at outreach. And again, trying to push the survey. So, and we'll have the documents a little later for you tonight. I did keep the special tax rates in my report again this month, just to reiterate that in October, people are going to see the tax on their tax bill. I included the rates just in case there's questions, but again, just want to emphasize if if you come across anyone that has questions, please send them my way. I occasionally get phone calls, mainly from realtors actually, about the special tax, but happy to field any questions people might have. Real quickly, we do have the board vacancy with Trustee Cervantes not filing for his seat. The plan is going to be to put the application on the website on October the 17th, which is a Monday, and have that open through Friday, November 4th. It is one of the items later on the agenda to talk about when we're going to do a special meeting around that, because we do have to get a name to LA County by November 28th, which is actually the day of the next board, or the board meeting that month. So we will have to do something ahead of that meeting.
Can you just give me those dates again?
Opening October 17th, closing November 4th. And the special meeting would either be probably the second or third week of November. But we wanted to talk to the board about when it would work for everybody's schedules. I also did want to push that we do have our new My Libro Altadena Library app. If you haven't downloaded it yet, I highly encourage you to. David's done a fantastic job of integrating several of our apps, so you can use all of those in the app itself. Based on the feedback he's seen, the people that use it a lot. So we just want to continue to spread the word. We're going to include it as a banner at most of the promotional materials that go out through Constant Contact and pretty much anywhere, like our eConnect and Altadena Connections, just to spread the word about the app, because it's really easy to use and a great resource. I'll skip over Tastadena since Bridget already talked about it. Congrats to the foundation for another fantastic event. It was really fun. Had a great time. Let's see. So the one thing I think Tom would mention if he was here is that the Friends are going to have a pop-up one-day book sale on Saturday, October 15th. Friends members will have limited access from 10 to 12. So if you're not a member, shame on you, you should be. And then the rest of the community can go through the books from 12 to 4 on that Saturday. We also have our annual Shred Day scheduled for Friday, October 14th at 9 a.m. That's a really popular thing. So if you have things to shred, make sure you show up early because the truck stays until it's full. And I guess we fill it up every time. So more info to come on that. And then let's see. You saw the summary of the 55th. That was also a really popular and great event. In terms of statistics, the one number that probably stood out is our death statistics, which are also known as reference sessions. They're being tracked differently starting August 1st. There was a system where staff were having to fill out a form every time they helped someone, and that was just kind of not happening really consistently. So now each of the service points are tracking readers advisory questions versus directional questions versus technology assistance questions. So it's going to be a much bigger number because I think it's easier to track.
Which category, I'm sorry, Nikki, were you talking about?
The reference sessions. So that's basically like the people that walk up to the desk in the building and how they're being helped.
Okay, gotcha.
Mm-hmm. So that number is going to be quite a bit bigger moving forward. The only other thing is I'm excited to share that my husband, son, and I, along with the Valenzuelas from Grocery Outlet, are going to be going down to Mexico, just outside of Tijuana, this Saturday to build a house for a family through a program called Corazon. I'll definitely share back on that. I'm really excited about it. One of the speakers at Rotary one week was the chair of their board. So we immediately were like, sign us up, let's go. So I'm really excited about that. And I'll take pictures and share that out. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you for that report, Nikki. Any questions or comments for Director?
Can I ask a quick question? Yeah, I was curious, Nikki, about the rationale for the timing on the vacancy advertisement. I understand having it open through the 4th, but I'm curious to know why we wouldn't open it up earlier, right? Like October 3rd or something like that, so that people have a longer period to apply, given that we've often had trouble getting the word out, generating, movement. I'm curious to know.
We just based it on how we did it last time. I think we opened for about 3 weeks, but if we want to post it sooner, we absolutely could. We're going to follow the exact same process, use the same form that we did. So if the board wants us to do that, we're happy to, we could post it earlier for sure.
I think it probably makes sense.
Sure.
I think there's no downside, yeah, to giving people a full month.
Great.
Thanks.
Colleagues, any other comments, questions?
Just a comment for Nikki, and that I saw your main library 55th anniversary party, and you had set up with the CSDA that interview with Judy, with Congresswoman Chu, and she came on and she was really plugged into special districts, I thought, and we got a couple of names from her, from her contacts and her staff and so on. And then I see you'd already mentioned it, that she'd been part of the 55th anniversary party as well. So it's pleasing to know that we have that many legislators and government officials in our corner. I thought that was really nice.
Yeah, we lucked out that she could come speak at it.
Okay, seeing no other questions or comments from my colleagues, so we'll go right to the financial reports, which begins on page 34 of your packet.
All right. Again, good evening. I'm really excited to share that we have the financials from last month. Yay.
Wow.
This is the first time we've ever been able to do that. As I alluded to in my report, Bailey had let me know that if they could have the first 2 weeks of the month to prepare the financials, we should continue to be able to get them to the board. What that means is their deadline to get them to us is usually the Tuesday before the board meeting around noon. And, you know, that is publishing the package a little bit later than we aim to, but I think it's much more current and up-to-date information that's beneficial to the board. In addition to that, similar to what they do for some of their other clients, they also included a variance analysis for each month, so that if you're reviewing a line and you feel like the number is low or high, if you refer to the variance report, it should explain why. So I think that's going to make the reports a lot easier to read and understand why a number is either higher or lower than you typically see. So with July, as you know, we go into a deficit until we get our big payment from property taxes in December. So our net income that month was a negative $631,000 due to the fact that we only had $10,689 in revenue. The new 50% operating expense rate that we'll maintain through this fiscal year is $2,045,350. Our cash with the county far exceeds that right now at $3,404. And generally, July was a pretty slow month, to be honest. We did make some of the lump payments. So we paid our required amount for the unfunded accrued liability to CalPERS, which this year was like $226,000. So that, again, is going to make the number look really high because it's 100% paid out. We also made payments for some of the insurance. And then again, that's just a one-time a year. So those are like the bigger expenditures. In terms of August, that's 16% of the budget year that we're at. And overall, we were close in that spending. Again, we still have $3,068,064 in total cash with the county. You know, again, over $1 million more than we're required to maintain in reserves. We did get over $76,000 in property tax income. I'm not sure how that works exactly because we usually get the lump sum, but as you look from month to month, it can vary what we take in, or sometimes it's even deducted from the account. And then I will point out that it hit the books in August that we received $15,000 from the Altadena Library Foundation, half of their annual pledge, as well as the $28,000 from the Friends of the Altadena Libraries, which again was $6,000 more than they had pledged to us originally due to a really great book sale in May. They were able to give us the additional $6,000, which along with the budget committee will make those adjustments at mid-year. So hopefully I can answer any questions you have. Because it is 2 months worth.
Exactly. Questions?
I got just a comment. I was really impressed with the catch-up rate on the financials. Just a couple of years ago, it was uncommon to be 3 or 4 months behind on that, which made it almost a useless statistic for us.
So congratulations on that. That's a big accomplishment, so thanks for that. And then I love the profit and loss line item story. And a good example for me is when you look at July, and you talk about workers' compensation insurance, what being it full, et cetera. And it was a 40, I think I'm reading 44% lower premiums for that. And that was interesting because it completes a loop. A couple of years ago, we were talking with SDRMA, right, about why was our bill so high, and said, don't worry, it's going to come down if you don't have any more incidents. And sure enough, there it finally is. So it was kind of completed the story for me. So that's very good work. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. That number was substantially lower than last year. So we haven't had a workers' comp claim since I started, so hopefully that continues to go down.
Couple questions, if I may. So two quick things. One, I want to echo Terry's sentiment. Love the variance report. I think that's so helpful, and it's a really great addition to the financial reports. My question is about the 76,000 and change in property tax revenue. Is this cash flow, or is this a change in projection? Like, is that just money that came in that we were expecting as part of our total projected revenue from property taxes, or is this an additional $76,000 that we are seeing because, I don't know, property values went up or they collected more than they thought they would?
I really can't answer that. I'd have to ask ideally and get back to you. It seemed to me like throughout the fiscal year, there's some months that like we'll just get like $30,000 in property tax. And then even some months there's a little bit of a deduction. So I believe it has something to do with the way LA County is collecting. But I could get an answer for you on that. I'm not sure.
That would be great. It seems to me like it's probably just cash flow. Like that's just what trickled in this month versus above and beyond what we had projected. But it'd be helpful to know, especially because we'll see that month over month.
Yep. I will find out.
Thank you. That's it for me.
Great. Okay. All right. Thank you very much for that report. Okay. So now we will go to the Board of Trustees standing committee reports. Terry, I know we didn't have a CFD committee meeting this month. Do you have anything to add as far as?
Well, we didn't have one. We were scheduled to have one in September because we slowed down our pace a little bit and made it more quarterly. But for various reasons, we couldn't get that done. So we've got it scheduled now for next, actually Tuesday, I think. Is it Monday or Tuesday?
Monday.
Yeah,
Monday. The 3rd.
So at about 3 o'clock. So everybody tune in and we're going to have a meeting that day.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Okay. Next is the budget committee, which you can find on page 57 of the report. Katie?
So I'm not going to belabor all this because you guys can read it in the report, but basically our quarterly budget committee meeting was this month, and we had a chance to preview and explore and discuss 3 of the items that are going to be presented to the board for approval this month. So we'll get into each of those as an action item, but if there are any questions about the report or our process, I'd be happy to answer those now.
Colleagues, any questions about the budget report? No. Okay, seeing none, thank you very much for that, Katie. Okay, now we'll go to the Board of Trustees ad hoc committee reports. First is our facilities committee report, which you can find on page 59 in the packet. Jason?
I mean, nothing major to add beyond Nikki's report other than to say that it was a sigh of relief is an understatement. With everything going on with inflation, the numbers that kept coming in weren't looking positive for us, and we were really starting to seriously worry that all of the kind of big, major changes, especially for the main library that we had envisioned, may not necessarily all be possible. And with that money coming in, and what we were able to confirm through our weekly meetings that we're still holding with Rackland Partners, we at this point have more than enough money to cover all of those big ideas that have been out there through the early community meetings that we had. So that's just incredible because we're going to be able to really truly reimagine everything about the 2 libraries, starting with Bob Lucas, which is super exciting because by this time next year we should be well under construction there. I think the other interesting part is, for me personally, it's, I've never personally been involved in a process like this. So I've personally been like frustrated with like how easy it is for another month to get pushed down the line and another month to get pushed down the line. I'm starting to think like this might end up actually helping us a little bit. Like I know there, I just, on the drive here tonight, I was listening to a market report on NPR, and they were saying that the price of lumber has gone, like just this week, finally dropped to like pre-pandemic prices. Like, yeah, just keep it going, baby. Like, you know what I mean? Like, let me know when concrete gets to that point too, right? So yeah, I mean, it's really exciting where we're at right now. There's still a lot of just behind the scenes stuff going on with historical reviews and the conditional use permit and all that. But it's all moving in the right direction, and that's really exciting. The one thing I would just ask for the folks on the CFD committee is, and I may be completely wrong on this, but I remember hearing at some point that once the bonds are issued, we had 3 years to spend them. And so I'm just like looking at like how far out the calendar goes as far as construction at the main, right? And when we actually issue the bonds, it'd be good to just double check on that kind of piece of things, specifically vis-a-vis where our project calendar is at.
Right, it is 3 years, and I think it'd probably be helpful at the next.
To round up all of those, those scheduling issues, so you know.
Yeah. So the next board meeting, the safety report will contain that information.
Okay.
I'll ask Doug, and I think as long as it's designated too by the 3-year mark, and it's like 80%, but Doug's gonna be attending CFP on Monday, so we'll double check all that with him.
Yeah. Okay. It could be a difference between being encumbered versus
Yeah.
actually spent, so we'll get all that set.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Great. Any questions?
Yes.
Well, yeah, just back, with the facilities committee, one thing I kind of worry about, probably needlessly, is that this conditional use permit has been looming on 2-3 reports now. Do you feel like all the proper buttons are being pushed on that one to try to get it through as quickly as possible, or has it?
Yes. No, we have. The facilities committee meets every Monday at 10:30 a.m. Chaired, so Jennifer Pearson generally kind of runs that. She's from Rackland Partners, kind of running this project. And so we get updates every week. And I feel like at least that everything is being moved as quickly as it can. They are in constant communication with the county on everything that needs to happen. So at this point, we're hopeful that it's going to be more on the 6-month timeline and not the 12-month timeline.
Thank you.
Colleagues, any other questions or comments? No? Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. All right, next is the evaluation committee. You can find that on page 61 of your report. Katie?
Okay, thanks. Again, I think most of this will pick up in our action item, but just wanted to give a little summary of what Trustee Cervantes and I have been up to over the past several months. So we're gonna be recommending an item to you all for approval a little bit later on in item 11D. But again, if there's anything about process that anybody would like to ask about, we can certainly have that chat now.
Great. Any questions or comments? No, seeing none. Okay, thank you very much for that, Katie. All right, we have on our agenda the liaison report for the government liaison. Terry, do you have a report?
Yeah, well, my apologies for not writing one the way I normally do and send it out. Just a brief update. When the last time we talked about government liaison business, it was regarding the Taxpayer Protection and Government Accountability Act, which is a California initiative that's in the works. And we all agreed to to find out where it was heading in terms of whether it would even be on the ballot or not. Apparently the deadline for random signatures, which is verification, which is a process they go through when you've got 1 million signatures to check, is ending today. And if you look at the most recent count, it's far below, the verified signatures are far below what's needed to get the whole thing on the ballot, except for the fact that LA County has not been polled at all. And that was where most of the votes came from, over 500,000. So I'm wondering if they've been working furiously, the organizer of this, and they're going to dump them all tonight, and we'll know tomorrow. But I guess I don't feel comfortable recommending what I did in last month's report, and that is to use the CSDA template for sort of objecting to or not approving this whole bill when it goes through. So that's the latest on that one. That's really the only news I had for the liaison report.
Thank you for that, Terry. Any questions or comments of Terry? As always, Terry, we appreciate your due diligence on those matters.
Sure.
Great. Okay. Next is we have one trustee report. Trustee Clark, on that page 63 of your report.
I finally actually wrote one. A lot of times I think, oh, I'm going to write a trustee report, and then it doesn't happen. But yeah, I mean, again, I'm not going to walk through all the nuts and bolts, but one thing I did want to just lift up a little bit was a thank you to the director, of course, to Nikki, and to Ashley Watts, our assistant director, for making some time to talk with me about the ways in which our district policies handle book challenges and book bans. So for all of you guys out there who've been tracking this nationwide, obviously there's a lot of this coming up, and it's a conversation in many library districts across the country, many of which are not, in the same position necessarily that we are here at ALD. So I really found it helpful to walk through our policies and understand kind of what our process has been and what we've seen happening locally. And then I was able to take that information and, speak with some of our peers and colleagues across the nation. So it's been really helpful to understand what we're seeing on the ground and to use that as context for what's happening more broadly. And certainly there's some really rough scenarios, and I think we're likely to see this trend continue as time goes on. So definitely something we want to have on our radar.
Thank you very much for that. Comments, questions?
I, for one, appreciate all the references that you have in there, Katie, for, following up, because honestly, I didn't know how to approach this subject. You see it,
Yeah.
Different political parties making different stories out of the whole thing. It's hard to get good information, reliable information about what's going on. So thanks for all those references.
Yeah, well, I was inspired by your liaison reports, Terry, where you always give us plenty of resources. So I thought I can do it too. It's true, right? It's really hard to find good reporting, and especially because a lot of this is very hyper local. If you're not following the local school board meeting news out of North Texas, who knows what's going on? So yeah, hopefully that's of value.
Yeah, I just want to commend Katie on national leadership on an issue like this, where, we're lucky that we don't have to waste resources on what I personally view are ridiculous fights like that. Because what's happening in other parts of the country, when I went to the Public Library Association conference, earlier this year, and to have a national conference like that just be dominated by people struggling with how are they dealing with these book bans, instead of having a national conference about doing all of the amazing stuff that we get to do in Altadena. And it's just sad that it's just eating up that much time and resources. My own family in Connecticut is having to deal with this. I have a 12-year-old niece who's openly gay and is dealing with a principal at her school that they have to fight to even put up like a pride display for Pride Month, not to mention book bannings and all this other stuff. And I think we forget in California, there's other places in the country where it's not obvious where to turn to build that community and support, where we just have so much access to it here. And there's huge parts of the country, and not just even in the so-called red states, where that just doesn't exist, and it's a struggle to even find that support network. So it's it's great that we're sharing our resources and our abilities to, on a national level. It's good work.
Okay, all right. No other comments or questions. Thank you very much for that, Katie. Really appreciate all of your hard work on that. Okay, we have no unfinished business, so now we'll go into item 11, new business. Item A, review and approval to amend the district director's employment contract and/or compensation. So, colleagues, The director's current contract is, she's in the last year of a 3-year contract, which expires on November 3rd, 2022. And making a motion to have that contract being amended to be extended till January 6th, 2023. At that point, then we will, at that time, have a new contract in place that will begin on January 1st on a go-forward basis. So with that, I'd like to entertain a motion for that item.
So moved.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
A second.
Any discussion or questions on that matter before us?
I'd just like to say for the record that the rationale behind, and we had this, discussion in closed session, but just for the record, since we're now discussing this item, the rationale here is just to put in place a 60-day extension such that we can conduct a full and comprehensive and, timely evaluation of the district director without having to worry about the contract expiration date. So it's really to align all of those processes so that we can conduct our regular evaluation in November, propose a new contract, and then have that January 1st start date. So it's a solve for a sort of a funny calendar issue that has been a challenge in the past.
Great, thank you for that clarification. All right, any other further comments, questions on that matter? Okay, seeing none. All right, you have the motion before us. I'll take that matter to a vote. Trustee Andrews?
Aye.
Trustee Capell?
Aye.
Trustee Clark?
Aye.
Trustee Wilkerson?
Aye.
And an aye vote for me, so that matter is approved. And we'll now go to item B, review and approval evaluation facilitator provider for the district director annual evaluation. Katie, you and I did not discuss really this beforehand, but Katie and I did reach out to several different organizations to help facilitate a review to provide a level of additional tool to assist our director enhance the overall experience for the employees as well as herself. And we were able to identify this organization called Management Partners that can speak with not only stakeholders in the community, but also key employees in the district that can provide feedback that could then ultimately be utilized to better enhance the delivery of service in the district as well as in the library itself. So, Katie, I'm not sure you have any additional thoughts that you'd like to add before we ask for a motion.
I'll just add that I think that, we have struggled to put in place an evaluation process that feels sustainable and that meets various different goals. And I think that trying this one is worth it. As you'll see in the committee report that's in your agenda, the cost associated with this evaluation is $9,400. That's pretty consistent with the other recommendation that we received. It came in slightly lower. And, this is one of the key responsibilities that the Board of Trustees has, right? In addition to approving the budget and approving policy, one of our biggest jobs is to evaluate the director. And, it can be a challenging process to do well. I think that a lot of public agencies struggle with it to provide meaningful feedback that translates into action and measurable goals. And so I think it's worth trying this process to see how it works, to see if it improves the feedback that we're able to get, not just from the board, but from other stakeholders, from members of staff, from the community, so that we have a much more holistic ability to assess and provide feedback going forward.
Thank you for that, Kate. Any questions? Okay. All right, seeing none. May I get a motion to approve item B, please?
So moved.
Thank you. May I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, further discussions on the matter?
I have a question.
Yes.
Actually, sorry. Is this something, this evaluation process that needs to be specified in the contract? Just looking at it, just has this generic under performance evaluation, but is this something that might modify the contract?
Not the current contract. So the current contract and the board policies just say that the board shall evaluate the director on at least an annual basis. And so this, the mechanics of how that happens is at the board's discretion. I think that, once we go through the process, we can make a determination whether that seems like something we would want to do on an annual basis or every several years, or who knows, right? I think that's a determination the board could make in future. But no, it definitely falls under the purview of the annual evaluation responsibility of the board.
Okay, all right. So with that, we do have the motion before us. Trustee Andrews?
Aye.
Trustee Capell?
Aye.
Trustee Clark?
Aye.
Trustee Wilkerson?
Aye.
All right, and I vote for me. That matter is approved. Thank you very much, everyone. All right. Next is letter C, review approval of the Bob Lucas Memorial Library Design Plans, which you can find on page 74 of your report.
Yep. So we brought the design documents for the Bob Lucas renovation, which were last month, so you could have time to review them, ask questions, just provide information. We do need a formal approval of these documents to take to LA County to continue with the conditional use permit process. They've warned us that if we were to touch these things after they get approved, that could set back the whole process. So we have them again before you tonight. We did wait to have this vote happen until after the town hall census tract meeting, so we could get more feedback from the community, but nothing has changed since last month, which is why we just put the link in the 86 pages in the Word package again.
Thank you.
Anything else, Susan or Katie?
I don't know, unless there's any questions that have come up since the last meeting.
We had that presentation last time. Any additional follow-up questions on what we're looking to approve here? No? Okay. All right, seeing none, can I get a motion to approve?
I'm very happy to make that motion to approve.
All right, we have a happy move first. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Great, thank you. An enthusiastic second, thank you. All right, take the matter to a vote. Trustee Andrews?
Aye.
Trustee Capell?
Aye.
Trustee Clark?
Aye.
Trustee Wilkerson?
Aye.
I vote for me. All right, well done. All right, thank you for all your hard work on that. All right, item D, review and approval of the RFP for our accounting and financial consulting services. Find on page 76 of your report. Thank you.
All right, so as you're all aware, and as my report outlines, I brought an item to the board back in July, at the July 25th meeting, to expand the scope of services being provided by our accounting firm, Ideally. We realized through the process that we hadn't ever done an RFP for these services, so it was suggested by the board that we do so because it is a substantial contract. I worked with our municipal advisor, Doug Anderson, because I'm sure you're well aware, if someone's going to propose on an RFP, they can't assist in the process of writing it. So I had him review, specifically was looking for like the qualifications piece that's needed to be able to hire an accounting and financial consulting services firm. Other than that, we had a really robust scope of services list that I was able to incorporate into the RFP, and then did take this to the budget committee at their meeting on September 16th. And we're bringing it to the full board tonight with the recommendation to approve it, in which case we will get it posted hopefully tomorrow on BidNet and solicit bids for the next one. Hoping to bring back a selected firm probably in November.
Great. And just for clarification, Nikki, this also includes some of the job duties previously performed by your administrative assistant or
The office manager.
Right.
Yeah, so after this, the next agenda item is the hiring of a staff accountant, which we call temporary CPA.
But there was a decoupling of those duties, some of the
Yes,
services are.
yeah, the way that-
Contract and others were other part-time, right?
Yeah, the staff accountant is, the description is more about assisting with these financial tasks with really an exclusive, which I'll get to in that, but yes, this scope of service pretty much encompasses anything that we would possibly need for accounting and financial consulting. One of the, I think, two of the important things that I included, well, one is included, one will be part of the scoring criteria. And I do have at least one of the two budget committee members that's indicated they'll be on the scoring team when we do receive proposals, is that we would like a firm that has payroll as a potential service they can provide. The plan is not to outsource that at this point, but if in the event that that needs to happen, we want the firm to be able to provide that service for us if we do need it. And then the other thing that we definitely want to consider is a firm that's at least has a local office, so that if we need someone to come in and assist, they're able to show up pretty last minute. Not like a firm that would have to fly somebody in to help us kind of thing. But again, that's usually built more into the scoring criteria, which we'll look at when we close the proposals and start scoring.
Excellent. Questions, comments? No? Okay, all right. May I get a motion to approve that item, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Jason. May I get a second?
I second.
Thank you. Any further discussions on that matter? All right, seeing none, we'll take the matter to a vote. Trustee Andrews.
Aye.
Trustee Capel.
Aye.
Trustee Clark.
Aye.
Trustee Wilkerson.
Aye.
Thank you. That's a high vote for me. That RFP is now approved. Now we'll go to letter I.
I just can't believe we're not as excited about accounting services as we are new about Lucas Library. Yes.
You didn't hear me screaming inside.
Speak for yourself, Jason. Pretty amped.
All right, next, review approval of the staff account job description. It's on page 107 of your report. Nikki?
Yeah, so as I alluded to in the last item, I was also tasked at the July 25th meeting with bringing forth a job description for this person that we hired temporarily. We were calling it temporary CPA, but the research that I did around qualifications, this person wouldn't necessarily need to be a certified public accountant. So we ended up calling it staff accountant, and if you look at it, most of it derived from the office manager position, but all of any HR language was stripped of it, as well as replacing like oversight of tasks with assisting. So we definitely see this person working in a part-time capacity hand in hand with the accounting firm that is selected. We didn't indicate part of full-time because down the road it could potentially be a full-time position if that is what we see. Originally, when I took it to the budget committee, we had asked for approximately $25,000 for this position. Right before that meeting, I was talking to the accounting firm, and that was based on this person would work like 1 to 1.5 days a week. They had suggested that we have them work 2 days a week. It would streamline things and make the workflow a lot better. So that's why I raised the number to 40,000, so that if potentially this person that we end up hiring can work 2 days a week, and then ideally is like filling in the gap, basically those other 3, that would be ideal. So that is the recommendation, is that you approve this job description so we can hire a permanent staff accountant at this point part-time.
Excellent. Great. Thank you for that. Colleagues, any questions or comments on this item? No? Seems pretty straightforward. Of course, we've discussed this before. May I get a motion to approve this job description?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I get a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions on this matter? All right, seeing none, we'll take the matter to a vote. Trustee Andrews.
Aye.
Trustee Capel.
Aye.
Trustee Clark.
Aye.
Trustee Wilkerson.
Aye.
And I vote for me. That item is now approved. All right, now, item F, review and approval of resolution 2022-16 to establish authorized signatures. You can find that in item 112 of the packet. Nikki?
Okay, so we are yet again bringing back an authorization to establish authorized signatures. We brought this the last time in March, which was when our office manager, Anna, had been hired. We added her as a signer, which is what we had done in the past, was have, it was the administrative services manager and then office manager sign. Since with her leaving, it's really, I talked to Pacific West that I think it makes more sense to have another staff member that's a signer. I'm not the person that cuts the checks. So, working with Pacific West, we are removing Anna Villalobos as a signer and adding Assistant Director Ashley Watts, so that in the event that I'm not here, she can sign checks for us as well. We'll continue to maintain having trustees Clark and Andrews as authorized signers as well. Our checks only require one signature, but this way we have several backup plans as needed. Happy to provide any other information.
Great. Colleagues, any questions or comments on this matter? Seems very straightforward and logical. Thank you for that. All right, may I get a motion to approve? Please.
So moved.
Thank you. May I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussions on this matter? Okay, seeing none, we'll take the matter to a vote. Trustee Andrews.
Aye.
Trustee Capel.
Aye.
Trustee Clark.
Aye.
Trustee Wilkerson.
Aye.
And I vote for me. Thank you very much for that. All right, last of the action items is the review and approval of resolution 2022-17. This is the teleconference meeting.
There's a,
Oh, we've got the closure one first.
Oh, yeah, thank you for that. I was so anxious. I was so excited about the Oculus. Okay, review and approval of the library closure, October 13th and 14th for commercial facility rental. Nikki.
right. So, we were contacted by a filming agency, what do we call them, a scout basically that actually has worked with us in the past. I don't know if you know, but we've had filming for Criminal Minds here, I think 2 or 3 times. I think that was his association. Now that things are opening again, we're starting to get more requests for filming. He had reached out and said that he had spoken to Cindy Cleary the summer of 2019, and she had said it's like $10,000 a day, and he seemed just fine with that, so I reached out wondering if that was still the rate. There was a time frame, it was about a month in October, but then realized we're gonna be in Pasadena the week before, so requested the 13th and, well, the week of the 10th, but the 13th and 14th was the least impacted days for the library during that week if we were to allow them to film. So after he reached out, I actually informally polled the trustees to see if this was something that was even a possibility and let him know whether or not that it is, and then bring it to them. So as I mentioned in my report, we are closed October 10th for Staff Development Day, which is also Indigenous Peoples Day. That Monday is a closure that the board approved last year. The 13th and 14th are Thursday, Friday. We are open 10 to 6 both days. There was a question about passport services being provided. We're actually closed on the 14th because one of the staff is on vacation that day, so there's not passport appointments that Friday. So we would maintain the appointments on that Thursday if we do close. Bob Lucas will be open both days, and we're looking at a minimum of $20,000 in potential revenue. Some of the things that we've looked at that could be funded if we were to move forward with this filming option. We had some serious struggles with our HVA system the week of Labor Day. My office is always very cold, and I was hot both those days, which was very weird. So if I'm hot, everybody was really, really hot. Thankfully, we were able to get them fixed, but realized that one of the units here needs a new computer, and the quote that just came in is $13,000. Obviously, we have to get some more quotes on that, but that's an item that we didn't really budget for, and as you're all well aware, we're trying to spend as little as we can on the building, but that's something that can potentially benefit from additional income. The other thing that we often get asked for is use of our sound system at events in the community. We do have one that we purchased in 2020, I believe. So we were thinking that it might be useful to have a second system so that if we have multiple events, like there was a day last year when we had the 30th at Bob Lucas and a historical event here, and we could have used sound systems at both, as well as allowing some of our community partners to use a sound system if there's an event at Grocery Outlet or something like that, that we have that additional sound system. So those are just a couple ideas that we didn't really budget for this year, but we thought could use the additional income to purchase. But again, wanted to bring this to the board, but you can discuss and ultimately let us know which way you want us to go.
Great, thank you for that. We've not, just since I've been on this board, we haven't had this kind of discussion internally, so I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts, comments, or questions of Nikki in general.
Well, Nikki, I thought the way that you've broken out where the proceeds for this could go, it makes it much more compelling, for approval for me. And you've got, it seems like it'll have a minimal impact in terms of closures on the building. So thanks for all of that background. And the rate sounds pretty good too. It sounds appropriate for the nature of what's going on. So thanks for the background.
Yeah, I mean,
Please.
I had questions about the passport services, which you answered, and so, yeah, I don't have any other questions.
I was gonna say, I mean, I think it's far enough in advance that we can get out ahead of making sure the community knows that we'll be closed those 2 days and, can work around it. It'd be good to see, if there's anything specific going on in the community those 2 days, and maybe we could also take advantage of the curiosity connection too.
I was just gonna ask about that actually, if people needed to, pick up holds or books, if they would, I think when we talked, it's early enough to route them to Bob Lucas so they can go there to get them. But another option could be the Curiosity Connection as well. If people are, adamant about having access to their books right away, which I can imagine they would be.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Kate, any questions?
Yeah, so, well, not really a question. I guess my perspective is, and I'm probably going to get outvoted on this, and that's totally fine. I guess to me, it seems sort of problematic to close the library for an extra 2 days when we're already closed 1 day, because that's 3 out of 7 days that we're closing Maine. And not that I don't think it'd be great to have $20,000, but I looked at the numbers for August. We had a little over 8,000 visitors to Maine in the month of August, which averages out to about 270 people a day. That's a lot of people who aren't going to, if you multiply that 270 by 3, right? That's almost 1,000 people who aren't going to be able to use the library that week. Who knows if they're 250 separate people, right? I'm not going to try to make that projection, but it seems to me that our first job is not to make money as a filming location, but our first job is to provide services to the community. And I get that Bob Lucas is open. I get that we have the Curiosity Connection, but just it seems a little extreme to me to close 3 days out of a week. So I would be opposed.
Question relative to the staff. So the library's closed. Is it 2 days paid time off for the employees?
What Ashley and I have discussed was first opening it up as days people could take off if they want to take leave. They could have a 4-day weekend really without having to try very hard. The other thing is having staff working over at Bob Lucas, as well as I like the idea of seeing what other events there are in the community, potentially having maybe a couple different spots with the van. I think it'd be good practice with it in terms of like when Maine isn't open, how we're going to outreach into the community. Other than that, like we've talked about, seeing if there's some telework that would be available to staff on those days to do from home. But ultimately, we try to keep everybody as busy around here as we could.
Katie's comments did make me think of one thing. I think I don't have a sense of how many days this year have we closed for filming, or like do we have any sense of like on average how many days a year we close?
We haven't closed at all.
Okay, I know that last year was definitely a few days.
There were, but we weren't open.
Oh, because of the pandemic.
Yeah, so up until now, we've never really had to close for filming, thankfully, past couple of years.
Yeah, because I think Katie's cautionary input, I think is real, right? Like I agree, we don't want to get to the point where like we're like, okay, like recruiting filming so that we can just drive the revenue. I mean, I would agree we do need to be cautious about looking at, making sure we're not impacting what our real mission is, which is public services.
Yeah, I think that, I'm sorry, I don't know if you were done.
Good.
I was gonna say that initially my thought also is that it is a shame that it's a 3-day, because we're also gonna be closed on the 10th. If it wasn't for that day, it would be a little bit more palatable. So I would want to suggest thinking about it in the future in terms of like if these things keep coming up, like if the individual who contacted you is like, oh, that's a spot that we can, always and easily access, and they will shut down the library for us, that we definitely wouldn't want to get into a habit or a pattern. So it might be helpful to think about it, in the future. Like, I don't remember what the policy around filming says in terms of, we won't be closed more than, 2 days in a week, or, but it may want to put something in place or have a thought about that for the future.
Well, a lot of the filming requests that we've received, we immediately had to turn down because the board has to approve the closures.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times filming, they're asking for like the next week, and we just let them know that it's not possible.
Right.
So I do think there's other opportunities, but again, we would have to bring that to the board and get approval, which I think that oversight makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
So Camila, in my prior life, I used to oversee a facility that was filmed at frequently, and the same scouts they'd come to that facility, and it became just a regular thing. It really became one of the primary revenue sources for this facility that I've oversaw. So you're right, it will get out. I think this particular time there's an appropriate expenditure, there's a need there that it makes sense. But really on a go-forward basis, it doesn't appear that the library is significantly hurting for cash. It has sufficient revenue to move forward. So to inconvenience constituents of the library patrons for money when it's a nice to have versus gosh, we really need it, must have on a go-forward basis. You've got to really consider that. I think one time maybe it makes sense, but because there is an appropriate expenditure, but from my perspective, on a go-forward basis, you got to be really careful because the floodgates definitely would open up because the word gets out, and they do come, and really do. And it's great if you need the money, but we're not really in that situation right now. So those are my 2 thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And Nikki, it feels like this event links pretty closely with the repair that we need to do on our air conditioning, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's got a little value in it for that. To me, I agree with Reshma. It's not like we really need the money. We find a way to do that some other way. But this is convenient, and it it does address that expenditure. So I link it. I probably shouldn't do that in my thinking, but I do, and it's one way to efficiently use that money.
Yeah, your tough decision.
Okay. Any further thoughts, comments on this matter? Okay, seeing none. All right, may I get a motion to approve the use of or the closure of the facility for October 13th and 14th for commercial facilities?
I move to close the facility for the 13th and 14th as described.
Okay, thank you, Terry. May I get a second?
Second.
Okay, get a second. All right, any further discussions, comments, questions on this?
Excuse me.
Okay, seeing none. Take the matter to a vote. Trustee Andrews?
Aye.
Trustee Capel?
Aye.
Trustee Clark?
No.
Trustee Wilkerson?
Aye.
And I vote for me. The matter is approved. Thank you for that discussion, and thank you for bringing this before us. And again, on a go-forward basis, you're really going to consider this because they will be coming back for more. All right, now we can get to item H, review approval of resolution for the teleconference meetings that you know. So this takes us through October 31st, colleagues. It's the same we approve every month. I don't think there's anything substantively different. Is there, Nikki? Just the dates, correct? Okay. Any questions or comments on that matter? No, seeing none. Get a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you. May I get a second?
I second.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion? No. Okay. Take the matter to a vote. Trustee Andrews?
Aye.
Trustee Capel?
Aye.
Trustee Clark?
Aye.
Trustee Wilkerson?
Aye.
And this I vote for me. All right. That concludes our new business. Now we'll go to item 12, governance, election update.
I feel like we sort of discussed
We did,
it earlier. We will look at getting it posted earlier in October. And again, have it closed November 4th. I do think it sort of ties to your next item, which is not only are we going to need a special meeting for appointing a trustee, but as I've discussed, not so much in my board report, which I guess I should have, in my weekly update that I email out to the board and the staff, I'm working with a strategic planning consultant to look at the 2020 strategic plans, planned through a post-pandemic lens. The first step with that is conducting a workshop at our staff development day on October 10th to get the perspective of the staff on specific questions around that. We're also going to be setting up community stakeholder interviews. I put together a list, Katie actually reviewed and provided some more suggestions of people that we should reach out to. And then the plan will be to come to the board members individually, probably early November, to run by the data and the information that we've collected. And then it was suggested that maybe we do a special meeting where the community can weigh in with the strategic planning update before we reach, develop the actual updates that we share with the board probably in December. So we weren't sure if that would be an additional special meeting in November. Again, I thought we should get this out there because I know how calendars fill up. So if you think it should be two separate meetings, one to appoint a trustee, one to talk strategic plan for the next few years, or do it as one, because we do have the regular board meeting on November 28th as well.
Yeah. Well, I know the goal is to actually have as many candidates as possible that you're going to interview for that vacant seat, so that could be time consuming. I don't recall how long it was 2 years ago, but to do both at one time may be challenging. Or again, we may only have a few candidates that could go rather quickly.
Yeah, I think it seems kind of impractical to try to combine them, especially because they're very different audiences. And I think that if we're going to schedule a special meeting for a strategic planning update, which sounds like a great idea, I would recommend that we do that at a time that's more, sort of a town hall time, right? Whether that's a weekend or later in the evening on a weekday where more people can attend. I think it makes sense to look at, a special meeting on maybe another Monday night or something like that. But I think they've got to be two separate things. Not that, we don't want to add 85 things to everybody's calendar, but it just seems impractical to try to combine them.
Well, it provides clarity for each topic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Terry? Okay. Sounds like we're going to be having two separate meetings. We need a vote on that. So the top, we're talking about total of 3 meetings in
in
November.
November. Yeah. So what we could do is pull the trustees and try to get something on the books sooner than later
Mhm.
for both. Okay. So count on me on that, we'll work on that. Yes. Just wanted to get it on your radar.
No, that's good, that's good. All right. All right, anything else? Any other questions on the government side? Okay. Announcements and planning? Correspondence, future agenda items? Colleagues, anything in particular for the next agenda? No? Yes.
I will raise, we did not bring, one of the recommendations from the budget committee tonight. We thought the agenda was long enough, which is the recommendation to establish the CEPD trust with CalPERS. So that's gonna be a future agenda item, just so everybody's aware. Because it was in Katie's report as something that we would be bringing, but we're gonna bring that in October.
Great. Okay. Thank you for the heads up on that. All right, to our last item, adjournment. Any motion to approve adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, got a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. Without objection, the meeting is now adjourned. It is 6:56. Thank you for your